What's your most memorable high school moment slash story? I'll start. A friend of mine ran into class and on the top of his lungs yelled, "Everyone! There's a giant mammoth shit in the washroom," and then darted back out. Naturally, my response was, "What the duck? A mammoth-sized shit? No way, this definitely needs to be checked out." Before my teacher could say otherwise, I ran out the door and to the boys' washroom. There was a line-up snaking across the hallway when I arrived. The teachers even gathered to witness this monstrosity. The anticipation was killing me. After hearing several, "It's so huge, wow, how did that come out of someone's ass?" comments, I knew this was going to be good. What I saw was a Guinness Book World Record size shit. This thing was at least 3 feet in length and around 8 inches in diameter. It was as if King Kong himself had taken a shit. We stood there perplexed, wondering how such a shit was possible. The best part was that it couldn't be flushed. So our janitor had to haul out this massive one-piece dino-core shit and burn it outside in a remote part of the track and field. Needless to say, the story spread like wildfire and the shit became known as the log. TLDR, a massive King Kong size shit was discovered in the bathroom of my former high school, and to the amusement of students and teachers it became known as the log. I had been watching a boy in the halls for 2 years. Never said a word to him, had no classes with him and no friends in common. On the last day of school of his senior year, he was a year older than me, he walked up to me, kissed me very gently on the mouth, and said, "I've been wanting to do that for a year and a half." Then he walked away. I never saw him again. I'm kind of glad, it preserves the mystery. I was a super nerdy guy in high school, and had never been to a dance in my whole life. A girl that I had talked a lot and thought of as a friend, again, I was nerdy, she wasn't on my radar, and I didn't even have a radar, asked me to stay after a class, and I honestly had no clue as to why. After all the other kids had left. She was super quiet and more nervous than I had ever seen her in my life. She could barely say it, but she asked me out to my junior prom. I remember there were 1,000 thoughts in my head. I had never been to a dance before. I didn't have money for tickets. I don't even know if my dad will pay for a tux. Regardless, I stood there dumbfounded for a few minutes before I realized she was nervously waiting for a response. My instant reaction was to say something, anything, just so she would have an answer. And with so many thoughts in my head, I just said the first thing that popped in. So, I practically yelled into her face, "I can't dance." There was an awkward silence for a bit, before she nervously said that it was okay, and that a lot of people are bad at dancing, but it would be fun. Long story short, I said yes and we had a wonderful time that night. We dated for a while afterwards, but went our separate ways our senior year. When I came back from college I ran into her again, and I have been wonderfully dating my high school sweetheart for over 2 years. TLDR, a girl asked me out to my junior prom. I froze for a few minutes before saying yes. We dated and broke up in high school, but ran into each other and have been dating for 2 years now. 2 students got into a fight, and the student who had started it by insulting the other student's girlfriend was suspended. The following day he returned, even though he was suspended, and he brought a number of older male relatives and his mother, all of whom were armed with brass knuckles and chains. Apparently they were after the guy and his girlfriend, but ironically they beat up the wrong people, and there was a big brawl in the school that culminated in the suspended student's mother punching our principal in the face. The perpetrators left the school before the police arrived, but were caught making their escape at a nearby bus shelter. Found that all the foundations of the school was one long tunnel system. So naturally we brought down golf clubs and had a few rounds of underground golf. Then one day a teacher followed us. Now he was a big man and he chased us around the tunnels cursing at us. Still brings tears to the eyes thinking what people must have heard coming from the floor beneath them with the guy cursing at the top of his lungs. Oh. That made me remember my best high school story. The foundations of our school also had a tunnel system, some kind of heating/cooling thing. The boys and girls dorms were connected by these tunnels, but had been walled up. I went to math and science boarding school. One of the boys went down into the tunnel system with plastic explosives and blew up the wall. Only problem, he forgot sound traveled. When he surfaced, he was promptly arrested by the responding and freaked out campus police. The even better follow-up is that a sting on the boys' dorm then went down, and all the mini fridges and rooms were searched, revealing 5 other boys with plastic explosives. They all admitted they had been blowing up assorted trees. My school was awesome. People would write "I love you" in acetone in the chemistry lab and light it on fire as a token of their affection. My high school had a rule against hoodies. People always fought and questioned it, and the reason was always changing, from the hood concealing identities to the front pocket being able to hide things. During algebra, my teacher from Lithuania, good at math, interesting lady, horrible at teaching and controlling a class, tells this one popular joker kind of guy to take off his hoodie. He asks why, and is told that the pocket could hide things. He says his pants have pockets too, should he take them off? She tells him to do whatever he wants. So he stands up and takes off his pants. She doesn't know what to do, so just stops talking for a bit, then tries to continue class. After about a minute standing there pantsless, he takes off his hoodie, puts it over his legs, puts his pants on his arms, and stays like this until the end of class. I took AP History, which meant I didn't have to take a final exam for the class. AP exam took its place. This also meant we didn't have anything to do for the entire month of May. Our teacher really liked us. We were smart, but we loved pulling pranks and doing dumb things. I actually have a million uninteresting prank stories from my high school days. Somehow we got away with it all, just because the teachers liked us. Anyway, we wrapped this kid David in aluminum foil. He looked like a knight. We then got 2 long wrapping paper tubes. 2 people went to the band room and got these long trumpet-like horns. The class of 20, led by David the Knight and the 2 trumpets, marched down the entire main classroom hallway during exam review week. The wrapping paper tube kids kept the march time by hitting the tubes, and the trumpets blared triumphant music. David led us through the entire hall, prompting teachers and students alike to rush to their doors and admire our parade. Even the principals smiled at their doors. Truth story. How did we get away with this? I don't even know. It felt good, though. My junior year of high school, some of the seniors decided to pull a prank the night before our homecoming football game. When we came into school the next morning, there was a tree planted on our football field, in the middle of the 50-yard line. And did I say planted? I meant cemented in. School officials got it out pretty quickly, no idea how, but it was still brilliant. The last day of my junior year in high school, my best friend and I decided to show up to our finals, wearing nothing but spandex undergarments. We both had the same final together at the end of the day, sitting next to each other in class, spreading our legs out towards the aisles with gigantic shit-eating grins on our faces. I was doing it mostly in my hopeless attempts to nail my English teacher. So, we're standing next to my locker during cleanouts, right before final bell is to ring, when our principal walks up behind us and yells, "What in the hell do you call this?" I look at him. He looks at me, we both spin around on the double, thrust out our groins, and flip our principal the best imitation of an armed services salute we can manage while yelling, "Sir, Mr. Smith, sir." Nearly 100 people turn on heel and stare at the commotion in the hallway as we're saluting our principal wearing skin-tight spandex, bulging crotches and all. He says real quietly, "Never again," and walks off as the bell rings. Needless to say, Spandex Fridays were banned from that moment on. TLDR, saluted our principal wearing spandex on the last day of school, banned from wearing spandex ever again. Not my most memorable, but the first one that comes to mind. It was near the end of the day, and there was some kid trying to sneak out of class, so when the teacher isn't looking he darts out the door. The teacher notices and yells at him. At which point my friend gets up and says, "I'll go get him," and storms out too. The teacher yells at him, without missing a beat. I stand up and say, "Don't worry, I'll bring them back." This went on until most of the class had left. I ran for senior class president for fun. I enjoyed making the posters. Ugly pants stupid face is not an artsy. I'm not saying the other candidates are, but have you heard them deny it? Or I put out ransom letters around the school, demanding votes or offering free LSD for votes, and consequently, didn't get along with the principal very well. I gave a very concise speech. I'm ugly pants stupid face and I'm running for senior class president. I lost, unfortunately. I suspect the election was rigged. But because of that, the principal knew my name. I think I was the only student in the school whose name he knew. And he tried to exploit that one time, and one time only. He had an important group coming by the school to check out the school, and said hello to me in the hall. I quickly realized that he was trying to look like he was in touch with the students, and yelled, "Duck you drunk," at the top of my lungs. I have no idea why I didn't get in trouble for that. Also, at graduation, I batted his hand away and grabbed him for a 15-second hug. TLDR, I've always had a bit of a problem with authority. Going to Disney World with my choir, and singing the solo to Bridge Over Troubled Waters. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. It was the beginning of a very bad life decision to become a music major. To all you college students out there, just because you're good at something, doesn't mean you should try to make a career of it. That advice mostly only applies to music. Or arts in general. In front of the class, a guy asks the female teacher if he can leave the class to use the toilet. We were about 14. Oh, in a nagging tone. "Fine Richard, you've got 2 minutes. Hurry up." Him, 2 minutes? It takes me that long to unravel it. God, I'm glad I'm out of high school. I never really realized how demeaning it was to have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Best comment of the day. In my astronomy class my senior year, our teacher left the room for whatever reason and we all started screwing around. A kid on the track team named Wyatt screams "Mr. Obama get down," and proceeded to slide across the huge 2-person desk and do a perfectly executed ranger roll. His friend Grant followed suit by screaming "Mrs. Obama get down." He, however, fell off the desk mid-slide and he landed on the floor, where this heavy 2-person sized desk promptly lands on him square in the chest. I have never seen a classroom erupt in such laughter before or since that day, and having actually bearing witness to that scene, it's pretty hard to top something like that.